The greatest UI I've ever seen is this Switch 2 UI that has hypnotized me all day. I gotta share it with you because it's freaking remarkable and it's almost too perfect. Plus, discussions on upcoming Nintendo games that they are sort of talking about and we're figuring more information about, and how I really feel about Nintendo going into the Switch 2 era. I've got something to say that I think might be a bit controversial, but we'll wait and see what you all have to say back in the comments down below. Good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. How are you all doing out there? I'm seeing people compare Metroid Prime 4 to Breath of the Wild because it's going to be a game that most likely is cross-gen, right? It was a Wii U and a Switch title for BOTW, and MP4 can be a Switch 1 and Switch 2 title. But I just feel like that's so much pressure, and I don't think we necessarily should look for Metroid Prime in the same way or through the same lens that we did with Zelda Breath of the Wild, which revolutionized and redesigned the series. Maybe Metroid Prime 4 can do the same, but it looks just to be a really, really good FPS from Nintendo, and that kind of ties into what I want to say later. That's not what I want to say that's controversial. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, Nintendo UI is something that, it's gone up and down over the years, but I think the Switch was pretty basic. I had hopes that Nintendo would upgrade and improve the UI of the Switch over the years, the many years, the 8 years of the Switch's life cycle, yet they never did once. Not once. They didn't do anything. They've got a light and a dark scheme, and that is it. I mean, maybe they changed the way you could order your games in the library, but they didn't really make any substantial improvements, and they sure didn't bring themes. But enter this amazing UI by Flame Plays YouTube. This is absolutely crazy. This is just freaking sweet. I'll link to their Twitter. I just bow down. This is exactly what the Switch 2 UI should be, and it's very basic, right? There really isn't that much different or new. This should be completely achievable, but it is the themes. It is the themes. It is the themes that make this pop. And their attention to detail and their attention to sound effects and utilizing Nintendo's famed characters, their beloved franchises, their iconic sounds and sights to really define what the Switch 2 can be, that's all we ask. That's all you gotta do. Throw a few little Mario coins and warp pipe sound effects, put a background on there, and call it a day, and we will be smitten. Absolutely smitten. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, Nintendo. You don't have to dramatically change the UI. This horizontal scroll bar has worked for a while now on a variety of consoles. I think it works very well on the Switch. Maybe you can change the shape. Maybe you can change the size. Maybe you can add and remove a little bit here or there. That's fine and dandy. But the most important thing, as evidenced by this crazy cool clip, is you gotta get the themes right. I know it doesn't affect the gameplay, but themes will make a dramatic improvement in my enjoyment of the Switch 2, as silly as that is to say, and I think it'll go a long way in differentiating and helping the Switch 2 stand out and pop. The Switch 2 will pop because of the size, the Switch 2 will pop because of the magnetics, like literally, and then it'll pop when you see like, dude, my screen don't look like that. And maybe this was a genius move by Nintendo that all along they planned for the Switch 2 to have themes and the Switch 1 to not. So when you see a Switch out in the wild, you can quickly tell which one is the cool new $450 one and which one is the old, yucky, dusty, rotten one. Not that the Switch 1 is rotten by any means, but you get what I'm saying from a marketing standpoint. I could easily see Nintendo thinking that was the smartest thing to do. They didn't have to have themes to sell Switch, but maybe they do have to have themes to help differentiate Switch 2. Now, let's talk a bit about games. Games, that's the name of the game when it comes to the Switch 2, and that is the April 2nd promise, right? That we're going to see a whole boatload of games and a bunch of games. And everybody is discussing and tossing around the titles they want to see, the franchises they hope for, the remasters, the remakes, the bringbacks, the revivals. And I just want to say that I hope and pray Nintendo bucks the trend this gen. Yes, I love me some Nintendo games. Quirky, fun, nostalgic, gameplay focused. It's one of the best things about Nintendo that they've maintained that hands on the controller gameplay is paramount, and it should stay that way for Nintendo. But look how many games they released over the course of the Switch 1 era. Tons of games. Was there not room for something a little bit different? You can't help but look and see that many Nintendo games start to merge together. They share a lot of common threads and trends, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the one thing we don't really see is like a true AAA feel. And throw the tomatoes at me, say that this is stupid and silly and not what Nintendo needs to be, but we could have our cake and eat it too. I saw this post about how Nintendo's secret game that they're working on, the playtest that nobody can talk about, which was basically like rumored to be a Roblox Minecraft style game, that some of the creators of Splatoon, some of the directors of Splatoon, are working on this secret project. The patent is about sandbox building akin to Minecraft and Roblox, specifically the process of setting an area to restrict player actions, i.e. to prevent other players from griefing your building. And that's something that we heard about within this playtest. The playtest game is basically the only game Nintendo has that would have something like this, and it could be that Splatoon's masterminds are working on this Roblox Minecraft type clone. Now this pains my heart because I think that the brilliant minds at Nintendo should be allowed to go hog wild, and they will finally have the hardware power to push their limits and push their creative talents to a place that Nintendo hardware previously would not allow them to go. Yes, it's fantastic to see the creativity on display in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I don't doubt that. I don't deny it. I don't try to slight it or belittle it. It's brilliant. I love Mario Wonder. And Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild took Zelda to a whole new dimension. Though I'd argue those games are far more AAA-esque than anything else that Nintendo really has in the catalog. While I'm so down for Kirby and his Forbidden Land, while I'm so down for Smash Brothers and Mario Party, wouldn't it be cool if Nintendo leveraged some of their IP to try for something bigger? Luigi's Mansion 4 is a great example of a game that already is pushing the graphical scope of what Nintendo is normally capable of and introducing a large area to explore and play around in. Why not make that a little more cinematic? You're already moving that direction with the Mario Bros. Movie. Give us a full fleshed out story, give us some more voice acting, and make this a true AAA experience. The AAA wording usually seems like something that's going to drag a title down and incorporate microtransactions and games as service stylings, things that we don't like. But I'm not talking about that type of AAA. I'm talking about the AAA that was the beacon of fun during my high school and college years. When the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 were reigning supreme, so many amazing AAA games did not have all of this muck about them. They did not pull the industry down. They lifted it up with games like Mass Effect, BioShock, Gears of War, and more. Why not allow Nintendo to have a piece of that puzzle and actually be the ones that set the industry straight once again? We've fallen into this terrible pit where it's all about Fortnite, Roblox, and games as services. And look, it's bringing the industry down. It's causing closures, it's causing layoffs, it's causing problems, and it's not really yielding the best games we could possibly get. I know the indie space is great, and you might actually associate Nintendo with the indie space in the sense that they focus on gameplay above all else. But why not merge Nintendo's brilliant use of gameplay with graphics and storytelling? That's something that I feel the 360 and PS3 era did so well and helped lift up these franchises that we hold dear to our hearts that maybe now aren't really all that they used to be, and many of the new franchises seem to fall flat right from the get-go. Nintendo is fine to not need new IP, although I'd love to see them try a few new things. Why not leverage their existing IP in new ways, and in ways that boldly take advantage of the Switch 2 hardware? What is the point of putting all this muscle into making the Switch 2 a technically competent system? One that can run Assassin's Creed Shadows and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. One that can play all the games that the other console manufacturers can make, but then only do what Nintendo is used to doing? I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are a great nut to crack, as they show Nintendo spreading their ideas and their tendrils of creativity in new directions that do tend to lean more into the AAA space. I think Nintendo should try and lean into that for all of their games. Even Mario Kart, I'd love to see become a bigger affair. Now, I'm not saying it should have microtransactions and battle passes and things of the sort, just become a bigger, bolder game with a larger vision and scope that is now made possible by the graphical power and by the processing power of the new Switch 2. Otherwise, if it's just another Mario, another Zelda, another DK, well, it would be a DK since we didn't get a new one last generation, what's really all that exciting? The form factor was the cool gimmick of the Switch 1, and allowing us to play our Marios and Zeldas on the TV and on the go was phenomenal. Now we've experienced that, now we take that for granted. It's time for Nintendo to level these games up, and I think the best way they can do that is lean into what they previously didn't think they needed to lean into, and in fact what they may have stayed away from. Nintendo has always been one to sort of go against the grain and show gamers what they really need, which is tried and true gameplay. But in a sense, now that the AAA space has kind of vacated what they used to be, Wouldn't it be like Nintendo to recapture some of the glory, recapture some of the fun, and recapture some of the mystique that Xbox 360 era, PS3 era of new franchises and titles really elicited within us? Nintendo could be the ones to take their characters and show us what AAA gaming really means, and it doesn't have to just be the same old, same old. The Switch 2 should be a system that powers forward. It won't be stuck with Wii U ports that need more sales to justify their existence. It hopefully won't be stuck with a ton of old titles that Nintendo thinks they need to bring over. Instead, it's time for the new. It's time for the new from the EAs and the Ubisofts, but it's also time for the new for Nintendo. I don't want to see them chasing Roblox or Minecraft. I don't want to see them making small, tiny games. I don't want to see them trying to replicate the indie space. In fact, I think many of Nintendo games help dictate the indie space, and many of our favorite indie games are actually built on the pillars of what made OG Nintendo titles so darn fun. Now let's have Nintendo take control of the AAA space and show everyone that you don't need games as service, you don't need microtransactions, and you don't need Roblox and Minecraft to make it work. I'd love to see Nintendo put huge budgets behind their Mario IP, their Zelda IP, their Donkey Kong IP, their Splatoon IP, and deliver something remarkable. Splatoon is a great example of a game that's built up a phenomenal lore and world, and they could truly take that to the next level if they would just expand their budget, expand their horizons, and, what do you know, expand their hardware power. Well, they've already done the first and the third because Nintendo is sitting on piles of money from the Switch era, and the Switch hardware is undoubtedly going to be significantly stronger than the Switch 1, especially with DLSS technology being confirmed in a recent patent. Now it's just do they have the desire to do so, and I cross my fingers that they do. Don't chase what others are doing now, Nintendo, and don't rest on your laurels. Find the nugget of gaming that you can truly capitalize on and make it even better than it was before. Utilize what makes Nintendo special, but combine it with the technology that you're putting forth for $400 or $450. It would feel silly to spend $450 and not see the games take a significant leap forward, especially in an era where new consoles feel like they're not really moving things all that much further into the future. Yes, there's more pixels, and yes, the lighting reflects a little bit better, but how much different is a PS5 game than a PS4 game? A Switch 2 game could be much different than a Switch 1 game if Nintendo's design docs evolve. That is a significant step that would make this new generation actually feel like a new generation, and I cross my fingers that we do not hope, demand, and praise Nintendo just doing the same old, same old. I know people love their remakes and remasters. I know people love their old titles coming back. I know they think the Xenoblades and the Marios and all of that is so great, and they are, but let's let Nintendo evolve. When they did it with Zelda, it was truly remarkable. And when they did it with Zelda, it sold like crazy. There is money to be made here, Nintendo, so make your games more AAA, at least what AAA used to be, and show these other publishers how it's actually done. Let me know your take and response in the comments down below. Very curious to hear if you think I'm crazy and Nintendo should avoid storytelling, avoid big spectacle, or if you think actually this is a good idea and would maybe help set the industry back on track. Love to hear from y'all down there below. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.